post the one from before. All right, so let me share the correct screen. You guys looking at my PowerPoint, is that right? No, how about now? All right, okay. Let's look at that first one. Now, I will say Twitter in the last few years has made this easier for students and participants, but look at the very first bullet point. How many words do you see?
I mean, how many do I see on the, like, can I count if I separate?
Yeah, how many words can you count in that first bullet point?
6.
6. The cat sat on the mat. Now, I'll tell you, when I first read it the very first time, I was like, the cat's at, wait, you know, you had to kind of do it. The reason I said Twitter has made this easier is because hashtags have basically done this, you know, so people really started reading hashtags. And that's now, if you're like me, of an older generation, I'm 41, but I'm still of the group that prefers when someone writes a hashtag, if we could just capitalize the first letter of each word, that would help me. But students don't need that. College students these days, they could read every word in a paragraph pushed together, I guarantee you. Like, they could probably write an entire paragraph and combine all the words together and figure out what it means, because their brains have actually adapted to that, because there's like, that's the generation in the technical in the technology world that they're in. But let's look at this second bullet point there. How many words can you read there? How many words are in that bullet point?
If I was going to guess, I'd say 3.
You'd guess 3, but why are you guessing? Why don't you know?
I have no idea.
Because this does not look like a language you know, right? So we can see the first bullet point because it's in English and we know English. We do not know this second bullet point. And so we cannot see this. However, it is a language. It is one of the languages we looked at yesterday, the Indian language Potawatomi. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it is only one word. This word means they see us. And it is only one word because of the way that they build their words together. So we're going to look at a little bit of this. There's also some things that we can do once we know words. If you know words in a language, you get to use words in humorous ways, and you can see how they're meant differently. Is this next? The next couple of slides are from an old radio show called Car Talk. It was an NPR Car Talk radio show. And at the end, they were like, here's who we need to thank. And so I'm going to show you, if English was not your first language, then these don't make sense. This is kind of this is sometimes you have to really think through how that would be different. But like, for example, they said, thank you to our copy editor, Adeline Moore. Well, Adeline Moore, as written in the first line there, looks like someone's name. Well, it sounds like what's in the parentheses, Adeline Moore, which would work for someone who is a copy editor, right? Because the job would be to edit the words. And if you, right? So all of these are meant to look like that. Thank you to accounts payable, I need a check. Thank you to pollution control, Mari emissions, right? Thank you to the purchasing, lowest bidder, the statistician, Marge Inavera, our Russian chauffeur, Pikov and Drabov, and our legal firm, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, right? And so these become humorous because we know the different ways that we can use the words, right? And how we can manipulate the words to be humorous for us. Without the knowledge of the language, we don't know how many words are in, how many words we're saying. So like even look at the Russian chauffeur, Pikov and Drabov. That name is supposed to be 2 names, but it's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words, right? So when you know a word, you know how many words someone's saying. When you know the language, you know when to separate the words, whether it be by spaces. Even when we don't pause between each word, but when we write, we know that they're separate. You should be able to separate words because of your intrinsic knowledge of English. Just like yesterday, we talked about form and meaning being arbitrary, so is sound and meaning. Just because something sounds the same, you know, or looks the same, the way that we add these things together, words can sound the same but have different meanings, like bear and bear, or they can have same meanings but sound different, like sofa and couch, right? Children learn these words without ever being explicitly taught how, or having to look them up in a dictionary, you know? And because we can understand what someone's teaching us we don't have to look it up. We just hear the words. Everyone's lexicon, remember that word from yesterday, everyone's mental lexicon includes words, how to pronounce them, the grammatical category that they have. We do need to know, like 10 minutes ago, we need to know our 8 parts of speech. And so that's going to come up even more in the next section from today. But what is a noun, a verb, pronoun? When we know a word in our language, our mental lexicon, it knows those things. It knows how to use that. It knows the spelling, if you're literate, if you've learned to read and write. Without that information stored in our lexicon, we would not be able to form grammatical sentences or be able to establish things that are or not. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was there. Let me show you. I'm trying to find I need to show one thing that we are going to refer to today is this diagram right here. So much so that when I was looking for my notes on this, like this just fell out. I just keep my own copy of this diagram. When I'm teaching it, I write it on the board point by point. And it is, for some reason, the way I think it looks like you have so many more documents on Canvas today because they're kind of separated out. This is a document in and of itself. Courtney, if I missed any of these things to you, then please tell me so I can make sure you get an email, but I think I emailed you everything. How can I'm gonna have to do it that way. And so we're gonna work through basically the entire rest of this lecture is working through this little chart. And so so let me see. Would it be better? How do we? What if I did this? I don't know how to make it just this. That's not going to work. All right, I'm just going to have to go back and forth, I think, a little bit. But before we start specifically getting into that chart for morphology, what we're going to talk about and what we need to look at is something called a morpheme. Okay, a morpheme, by definition, and this definition you'll need to know, hint, hint, each day there's like a new definition on the quiz, and this might just be one of them. It is the most elemental unit of grammatical form that carries meaning. By form, okay, I realize that when we talk about linguistics, I'm not supposed to just talk about English, okay? And so that's why I'm not supposed to say the next part. But if I'm only talking about English, then when I say a morpheme, when I say grammatical form, that can be a letter. Like the picture of a letter is a form, okay? And so it's not, every letter is not a morpheme though, okay? Like the letter H is not a morpheme because it does not carry meaning. The letter S is a morpheme because it carries meaning. It does what? I've used this 17 times by now. It makes it plural, right? The 2 letters un is a morpheme because it carries meaning. If I something, if I undo something, if I'm unable something, it negates, right? It puts that negative thing. So anything, when we say grammatical form, the reason it doesn't say letters, like I said, is because in other languages, that form might be a mark, a diacritic mark, right? Then that might change some meanings. In some languages that are pictorial, it's a stroke or an image that way. So just in English, we don't use it that, like we don't have those diacritics that change it. So really, for simplicity's sake, grammatical form, think of it as like a set of letters or letters. So the most elemental unit of grammatical form that would carry meaning. This can be a sound, a syllable, or multiple syllables. Every word in every language is composed of one or more morphemes, okay? So you don't, even the letter A, when it stands by itself as an article, is a morpheme, okay? So every word in every language. Basically what we have sounds that create a morpheme. So like we have 2 letters, that's the form, but the sound is that creates a morpheme. We add our morphemes together and they become words. Our words become phrases, our phrases become sentences. And so just straightforward, that's how we kind of combine. Sorry. My son texted. And today, during this section and the next one, I might lose you a little until I catch you up again. Don't go. Confusion is okay as long as it's not terminal. And so just stay with me, and then we'll take all the questions as they come. All right. When we get into morphology, that's the study of these things. That's the study of the structure of words and why we form words the way that we do and how it works out. When you have morphological knowledge, you know what different morphemes are, and you know the rules that you have that combine them. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to basically do for the next 20 minutes is discuss morphological knowledge. Now, when the reason that this is important, or the reason that we know a few things in how we put words together, kind of like at the beginning, there have been some tests that people, even if you don't know what a word means, if you speak a language, you can make educated guesses. Now, the next slide are educated guesses that are funny. It was actually done by it was somebody named Amsel. Oh, I'd have to find it. It's in my notes somewhere. But this is called a malapropism. It's basically Ansel Green. Malapropism is like, even when we guess the meaning of words, we guess intelligently because we are misinterpreting morphemes, and then it just becomes kind of a funny thing, right? And so, but even if I look, let me go back and say, even if I look at the word morphology, that word itself is 2 morphemes. Ology means the study of something, and morph is the form. So the study of form. Does that make sense? And so we have all of these things. So let's look at a few of the malapropisms. If they asked young students, the word was deciduous, and the students said they had to guess the meaning, and they said the ability to make up one's mind. What morpheme from the word deciduous did they hear that made them think that?
Decide.
Hold on to check. Yes. Sorry. Longevity, being very tall. What morpheme did they pull? Long. Fortuitous, well protected. Fort. Gubernatorial, not everyone gets this. Gubernatorial, they guess peanut, to do with peanuts. Why? Because Goobers is a brand of candy that's chocolate covered peanuts. Bibliography, holy geography. They're pulling from Bible and geography, right? They're kind of piecing that together. Adamant. Now they must have done this at a private school or something, because pertaining to original sin, what's the morpheme they're pulling from? Adam. Diatribe, food for the whole clan, right? So we've got 2 morphemes here. What are they pulling from? Diet and tribe. A polyglot, which many people don't know, is someone who speaks multiple languages. So more than one glot. That makes sense, right? Because what are they pulling? What's the morpheme they're getting? Poly. They just learned somewhere that poly must mean multiple. We don't know what a glot is, so it's got to be multiple glots. Gullible, to do with seabirds. Why? Gull, like seagulls. Homogeneous, or if you say homogeneous, devoted to home life. Why? Home, right? So this is like actually something that happens because we know words. Even if we don't know a new word, we have the information if we pull different morphemes to make intelligent guesses, but sometimes they're not that intelligent and they're just funny. And so we can kind of do that. There's a lot of information pulling further on to what morphemes are, but basically I want you to see how they're parts of our words. Now, I'm going to basically take that little chart, you have it in a PDF, and we're going to walk step by step through the chart. And so hang with me there. The first one, if we get what kind of morphemes do we have? We have two types of morphemes. We have free and bound morphemes. If we have free morphemes, though, I'm just going to go, let's see. I'll show you my chart. I don't know if I'm very big on your screen, though. I'm basically going to do this half of the chart first. Okay, we're going to kind of walk down this whole thing and look at our free morphemes. But you'll see here, right here, we have free morphemes. We have two different types. I actually prefer to call them content and function, simply because that's how we refer to so many things in other parts of linguistics, like today when we were talking about the things in aphasia, but they are called open or closed, and you'll see why in just a second. I hope I'm not confusing you more by doing this, but we have free morphemes. That basically means you have a form, a group of letters in English, okay? A group of letters in English, you have a form that can stand alone and be a word. That's what that means. Okay, so when I'm looking at this group of words, it is a free morpheme when it's kind of standing on its own. It constitutes a word by itself. It's a little tricky because in a minute I'm going to talk about something called a bound root, which can also be a word by itself, but stay with me. Free morphemes are always words by themselves, and we divide them up into whether or not they are content or function words. Content words, these are just what we've already discussed: objects, actions, attitude, attributes, ideas, nouns, verbs. They're also, the reason they're called open is because you can add new words to this category. I can create a new word. You created new words last night on the problem set. So new words are added to this all the time. A lot of times new hybrid words are added. So if I created a new scent of, this was really funny to me in Hawaii. I don't know, Courtney, if on the island, your boyfriend, do you still have a boyfriend in Hawaii? Okay. I always I'm like, oh, I'm gonna say something and then something happened. But there is pineapple, orange, guava, I think, or either passion fruit, orange, guava. There's a combination of fruits that they just, in all these packages I would buy, the flavor was POG, P-O-G, just POG, because it was like passion fruit, orange, guava. They just combined that. It was easier to say. And so that in and of itself, in that context, for that culture, for that group of people, if they say POG, that's a new word. They've put a new word and they've put a new into this free content morpheme category. We also have function words. They are closed because we rarely ever add new words. When's the last time you've heard someone create a new conjunction, right? Like, we don't really do that kind of thing. We don't really have new prepositions, that kind of stuff. This is something that's pretty closed. They don't have a very clear lexical meaning. Do you remember the word lexicon, lexical, your definition? These are the ones, like they have conjunctions like and or, but. They have prepositions. Can anybody give me a preposition? Let's test our knowledge here. In, around, right, through. Oh, we lost somebody. Who got mad? Wait, who was it? Amber. She told me prepositions. She got out of there. Articles, your a, an, and the. Your pronouns. Her, he, she. Demonstratives, what I mean by that are things like this and that. Your quantifiers, what I mean by that are did I say comparatives, more, less. Your quantifiers, all or some. So these are all kind of words that we need for the rules of grammar, and they give us some information. They do give us information. All gives me a lot of information. They carry meaning, and that's still really important. Look at this, though. I'm kind of, okay, I hate that Amber will miss this. That's fine. What I want you to do on the next slide, can everybody see the slides? When you're reading, what I want you to do is read the next slide. And as you're reading, so don't overthink this, as you're reading, hold on your hand, count the number of F's you see in the words, the letter F. How many letter F's will you find in the next slide? Is everybody ready? Don't overthink it, just read it and count on your hands as you go through. Ready? Go. Hold up your hand when you found them. Don't go read it more than once necessarily. All right. Courtney Engel is the only one who found all 6. Why 6? And here's why. You did not count the F in the words of. Result of, years of, scientific experience, because those are function words. Your brain does not, remember when we said canaphasics read them? When you are looking at specific things and you're reading quickly, we treat function words differently in our head. It's just fascinating to me. There's usually only 1 to 2 students, depending on how big the class is, that actually get it right away. And so that just kind of goes to show our function words, they're kind of stay there and they're for useful purposes, but they're just useful purposes. They're just there for functionality. Then we have, so that's really that first little section. We have morphemes that are free, and under our free, they are words. Everything under a free morpheme, I will tell you this, please remember, everything under a free morpheme will be a word by itself. That's your first clue. Now, it can be a bound one, but there will not be a bound morpheme that is a word by itself. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if I say, is this word free or bound? Is it a word? Then it's a free morpheme if it's a full word. Okay, that's just right away something you're going to need to think through. Don't overthink that. Free means these are all the words pointed together. That's the easy part. Let's talk through bound. There's only one part that's really confusing. Let's talk about bound morphemes. This says they are never words by themselves and they're always parts of words. If you remember the very first definition of morpheme, there was a part that was underlined, and it says they are the most elemental unit of grammar that does what?
Carries meaning.
Carries meaning. Okay, so if there is a word that looks like a word by itself, there will be words in this category that look like words. If it is required to be bound to something else to keep a meaning, then it will be called, then it's bound. So we're going to look at a word or multiple words, and you're like, is this free or bound? Well, it looks like a word. You're going to have to ask yourself, is that what the word is supposed to mean? Does that make sense? And so, hey, let's put her on, let's make her do the quiz. Where'd you go? You got mad. You're like, here's my preposition and I'm out of here.
My internet, I got in unstable connection and then gone.
All right, so are you, you can see my PowerPoint. We're going to give you a really quick quiz. I'm fixing to show you a slide. As you read them, count how many F's you see, and then you have to tell us the answer. You don't get long, you just have to read it one time, okay? The letter F, you're looking for the letter F. Go. Or there's 6.
Oh.
And I really just think it's fascinating. Don't y'all think it's fascinating? Weren't y'all surprised for yourselves? You did not count the F's in the word of because your brain does not read function words the same that it reads content words. And so that's kind of what that was just kind of proof. If she had gotten 6, I would have been like, yeah. But I'll brag. Courtney Engel did get 6, so we'll let her get her credit. All right, now here is the only confusing part. I say the only confusing part. It can be very confusing. How many of you teachers have taught what a root word is? What's the root word? I need you to erase all of that type of lingo from your brain, because you're trying to teach root words in English and you're trying to get students to the base of it. That type of root word work is what happens with the malapropisms. You're trying to find the root for this word to see what it could, the meaning of the word could mean, it could bring about, like what's the whole word. A root in morphology is, it holds content and it carries meaning. And this is, they're bound roots are specifically, it is this, hold on. Let me get my thoughts together, because this is something that can really trip people up. You have bound and free, and here this root word is listed as a bound morpheme. Okay, and that looks confusing because a root word would be a word by itself. What's the root? If we say what's the root word, I don't do enough of y'all's type of ELA to do this well, but if I were to say eating, what is the root? Is that what y'all would say? What's the root word of eating? Or would you say what's the root word of like a compound word? I don't know. Who teaches ELA? Marva.
Well, I've done it like beautiful. And what is the root word of beautiful?
Beauty,
Beauty,
right? Is that what you would try to do? Yes. Okay. And so those types of things are, how do we build it to get like the core meaning? In a bound root, it's different than that, because a bound root would be, it looks like a root word, but it's required to have these other parts to make sure that it keeps the meaning that you want it to have. An example: painter. The definition of painter is what? He is a painter. What is a painter?
Paint.
Someone who paints.
One who paint, a person, right? So the word painter is a person. Is that right? Okay. If I say the root word is paint, that's okay. And it is the root word even here, but it is bound to in order to keep the meaning that it is a person. If I were to just take the word paint separately, it can mean a lot of different things, and I can make it lose the meaning of a person by changing what connects to it. Does that make sense? I think you'll see in just a second how it comes about. That's the root. Let's look at what we call affixes. Okay, so we're on bound morphemes. We have these roots that look like words sometimes, and they can stand alone, but they are required to be bound to what we call an affix. Is this even backwards for y'all? Is this mirrored or just totally backwards? They're here are our bound. Oh, I didn't even tell you about that. I don't want to get confused. I don't know if you're going to need a bound root, the bound root that they're discussing. Here, do you see the sieve, mit, and fur? This is coming from like a deep Latin root. So like, I'll even read it from the text for you so that I don't mess it up for you. Bound roots do not occur in isolation. They acquire meaning when they are combined with other morphemes. For example, words of Latin origin like receive, conceive, perceive, deceive, like deceive, conceive, perceive, they share that common root of sieve. We also have common roots like remit, permit, commit, submit, transmit, admit. Their root that they're sharing is mit. Those aren't words by themselves. They are required to be connected to something else. Does that make sense? And so when we have those types of bound morphemes have no meaning by themselves. We also have morphemes like huckle, that when we join with huckleberry has a meaning. Luke, when it's combined with warm, gives a meaning, but those meanings separately don't have anything by themselves to give. Does that make sense? So those you can see easily why they have to be bound by something. And those are probably the easier ones to do. Then we have our affixes. In English, we only have prefixes and suffixes. Prefixes go where in a word? Before, at the beginning. Suffixes go at the end. Some languages have infixes and circumfixes, so I'll show you what those are. for us, but I first want to show you, let me see what my next slide says. I first want to show you what how our prefixes and our suffixes change. I really need this picture to be on this slideshow. From our prefixes and suffixes in English, we have derivational and inflectional, okay? Two types of affixes. For English, those are only prefixes and suffixes, but we can put our prefixes and suffixes into two different categories, derivational or inflectional. Derivational means that we're going to add it, and it's going to create a new meaning, right? A new word and a new meaning. And they can be prefixes or suffixes. So this is where I've used the example of un. If I have the word do and I want to add un, now I'm undoing, I've created the opposite, right? There are so many, let's see, suffixes here. They have, I would say, there's actually, did I give you this page in the book? Yes, I did. This should be here. Page 45. These are derivational suffixes and prefixes that change the word. So there's all these examples. For example, can y'all see this, or should I make it bigger? Let's see. Like boyish, virtuous, picturesque, alcoholic, all of these little suffixes, right? They're actually changing. Now they still have the same idea, but it's a new word and a new meaning, kind of like painter becomes a person who paints. And you can change. So the easy hint is, if it changes the part of speech, it automatically is a derivational affix, prefix or suffix. If it changed the part of speech completely, or if it changed the meaning, paint to painter. And then there's there's some that don't change the part of speech, but they change the meaning. Okay, so here, the second half down here, if you've got a friend, that's a noun, but you go from friend to friendship, it's a noun, but it means something different, right? It's explaining something different. You've got a king and you have a kingdom. Those are both nouns, but they mean something different. Or the verbs to undo makes it, or disbelieve. You can believe and disbelieve. Those are almost antonyms, really. Or you can make things adjectives and then just kind of have it similar. Is that making sense? So when we have affixes in English, we only have prefixes and suffixes, but we can have derivational. We derive a new word or a new meaning. Or we have inflectional. In English, I don't want to lie to you. I think there are only 9, and they are listed here. Hold on, inflectional. Here they are. Inflectional morphemes purely have a grammatical function. They mark things like tense or number. They don't change the category. They don't change the part of speech, the syntactic category. This is like, so when we say weights or weighted, all of these, we're changing the time, we're changing the possession, we're changing the person maybe, or the gender of things. We only have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that 8? I said 9, but there are 8. This is a closed list. So if it's these things, they're suffixes. That's the other thing about English. We don't have any inflectional morphemes that are prefixes. They're all suffixes. I know that you're looking at something, so I'm not trying to take it away, and I promise I'll bring it right back. Yeah, they're listed on that handout, all 8 of them. I'll show you. See here. All 8 of them are listed here under inflectional suffixes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just the meaning of what they do is in the textbook there. Are y'all with me on that? This whole chart is strictly for English, and that's why you'll see the let me see what I'm missing here. Now, also, let's see, I would tell you that we need inflectional morphemes to make something plural. However, we speak English, and English, there's always exceptions to these beautiful rules. So we don't say childs, we say children. We don't say oxes, we say oxen. So there are exceptions to this, but for what we would need to know would be here in our. So that's where our chart. Let me see where I was going to go next here. Okay. I do want to tell you. Well, those are our, let me ask you that question. Let me ask you that question about this little chart here before I tell you anything else. Do we have questions about how we're combining what these words are? We're just trying to classify these words. How each morpheme goes into one of these and then we combine them. Do we have any questions about that? So let me give you, what about tell me what kind of morpheme the following word is. Or, O-R. First of all, is it free or bound? It's free. Is it open or closed or content or function? Closed because it's a function word, right? What about in the word, so LLY, the word is hopefully. The word is hopefully. The morpheme is LY or LLY in this case. Is LY bound or free?
Bound.
Bound. Is it an derivational or affix or root? LY. It's an affix. Is it derivational or inflectional? LY.
Derivational.
Hopefully. Yes. Is it a prefix or suffix?
Suffix.
Oh, it's listed on there. Dadgum. I was trying to find one that wasn't there, and it's the first one, LY. Because you're taking hopeful. You're really taking hope, hopeful, hopefully. We have three morphemes there that we're putting there, right? If I say tallest, EST, tallest, is that EST bound or free?
Bound.
Bound. Is it an affix or a root? It's an affix. Is it derivational or inflectional?
Inflectional.
Inflectional, because it's so. Do you see how we're doing that and like we're combining those types of things? Now, in other languages, not in English, we have these infixes and circumfixes. I at least want to tell you what they are because this is where you can get some confusion a little bit from some students at times. Let me make sure I'm not. An infix is where you put something in the middle of a word. And we don't really do this in English unless it's slang. And then it's usually like, it's never proper grammar, standard grammar, but this would be like unfrickin' believable. Like that kind of thing, like when you put frickin' in the middle. That's what an infix would be. I don't speak Spanish, but I hear that they do this in Spanish, specifically when you want something to be small. Like the example Dr. Stapleton gave me to use would be Carlitos. You would take Carlos, and when you're saying like he's small, like, do you guys, Natalie or Courtney, have another example where you would put an infix in Spanish similar to Carlitos? You can use other things besides leap, I think, in the middle.
I always thought that ito or ita was like almost like a suffix for us, but I guess I've never like dissected grammar in Spanish.
But if it goes from Carlos, then you need the os at the end.
Carlito. But I thought it was just more like you say abuelito, and that's abuelo. I guess you're putting the O, I guess, back at the end, or an abuelita. So okay,
Right. At the end. Mm-hmm.
About that. I just thought I was thinking of ito or ita as like the complete.
I think it's just the E. is the infix. I'm not sure if there's other ones in Spanish that you guys can think of.
Natalie probably be better at it. Our Spanish would be better.
Or what's funny is if it's your fluent language, you can't think of the examples because they're just normal things you say.
Yeah.
Not talking about the grammar. But I know that Spanish has some infixes.
I said
Okay.
that's just like my husband, he's African American. He took a Spanish course at EC, and he told me his teacher told him that she visited Puerto Rico before, and that a lot of the people in Puerto Rico, they cut some of the words short. And I thought about what he was saying, and I'm like, huh. So I started thinking about the way I speak in Spanish, and I'm like, you know what? I sure do that sometimes. I don't say the whole word para. I say pa.
Uh,
And you
and
know
some
what
of
I
that's
do?
some of
I'm
that's
like,
definitely going to be your dialect as well, you know.
yeah, so I do cut, but that's just something we automatically do, and I don't even realize it. So
Yeah. Some of it is just from or some languages also do what we call a circumfix, where they put something at the beginning and the end to make a word, which we saw that at the beginning, that Indian language. The reason we're like, why does it say he is seeing us? I think I'm going to skip down to show you what I mean. Let's do this little activity. What I want you to do, I'd have to look up because my PowerPoint is weak today. Let me push pause on the recording real quick.